Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk about driverless, unsupervised Tesla miles. But first, let's roll that title.
You're in a Johnny Cab.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express.
Yes, Casey, I think they missed an opportunity to call their first cybercab the Johnny Cab. They should have done
it.
2 weeks.
It's everything. It's perfect.
I wanted to talk about this article released recently about Tesla and FSD unsupervised miles. This was released in Not a Tesla app where you can read the article. We'll put the link below if you'd like to go there. But this is kind of interesting that Tesla at this point has driven 50,000 unsupervised miles of its cars. And you may be thinking, what? I haven't heard about this at all. Well, it's because all these miles are being driven at their factories. Mm-hmm. So when their cars come off the line, they are driven autonomously from the end of the production line onto the local private roads that the factory is on, and to the delivery lots or final check lot where they will be given the once-over before they're actually shipped out on transport trucks or by rail. So this is kind of interesting. Casey, you've got a video you can load and show the folks at home what we're watching?
We've got several.
Okay.
And what's cool about this is, like, you might say, oh, well, wasn't it like 2 weeks ago that you guys told us about this? And isn't it only like 2 miles and a fraction of a mile and 2 miles again from the factory to these lots? The answer is yeah, it's true. But, you know, when you do it, I was dancing all of a sudden.
When you're producing almost 2 million vehicles a year, guess
Mm-hmm.
what? Things add up real quick.
That they do. So let's start with the first video, and then we'll go on to the other two as we speak. And I'm just going to have them run in the background. But we're going to talk about them as well. So this, what you're seeing here, is these cars have left the factory. Like they've landed off of the assembly line, and I thought that they were being pushed from that point to get started. But no, as soon as they land, they are driving themselves to where they're going. So they're going to come out the factory. They make this left, and they go around. This one here is a double right-hand turn. It looks like a pretty busy public-ish road, but they tell me it's a private road. The Cybertruck goes through the Cybertruck tunnel. So it's only got a 0.9 mile journey, but it's still got to wait for all the Model Ys to come through.
That's right.
And, yeah, and they all marshal up just ahead of the Cyber tunnel, about 6 of them at a time, and then they release and go down to the loading lot together.
The Cyber tunnel, of course, looks a lot like a Boring Company loop tunnel.
Yes. And there it is. A little bit of Texas right here.
Very cool. So they've actually got them completely leaving autonomously from the factory, right from the end of the production line. And as here, it's even adjusting for the door.
And that forklift.
Yeah.
And the forklift's not going to be in the same place every time.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice that when it gets to the stop sign, it's waiting for traffic. It looks like it's a 4-way stop for all traffic. And it's actually signaling across and into the proper lane to make that left.
Somebody waves it on.
Well, AI actually could be smart enough to interpret that. If the camera can see it and it can be put into their training data, it could be used. The AI can use that as an indication of, okay, that person's not going to hit me. They see me. They are giving me the right of way.
Yeah, and they're not going all that slow. Like, this guy is keeping up with traffic, even though it says 3x speed.
Right, but like you said, they are driving at the same speed as the vehicles around them.
Right, they're not a hindrance. Like, when you say this and then somebody describes it to you, you picture like a conga line of slow cars. Like the inside the factories, there's typically this like magnetic tape that they'll follow. Not these, but like the vehicles inside the factory, like the forklifts and stuff. But
right.
You notice this is not a stop; it's a yield.
It's a yield, yeah. It's just making sure it's clear. and then it goes on for a couple meters. It goes on what looks like a main road, but I'm told it's a private road, and then takes the first right it can to load up past the cyber tunnel. So basically, they went under one of the busiest highways in Texas, and back to the other side of their property, and it's going to come over here past the cyber tunnel. It's going to wait for about a 6 in a platoon, and then they'll all run down together to their various lanes that they need to get into to get loaded up on the trucks, trains, ships, to go where they belong. And this is just. I noticed
there's the charging on the left. It just passed.
I'm also noticing that these ones, the mirrors are out, whereas at Fremont, the mirrors are still folded in.
Oh, interesting.
That is
It's
interesting.
obviously
because
not using the mirror.
It's not looking at the mirrors, that's for sure.
Unless I wonder if it's because they're at the factory, and if somebody sees a car with folded mirrors, that tells you it's locked. So you might not look at it the same way as if it was running.
How's that locked car driving?
You can drive a locked car.
Like even like the Come to Me and Smart Summon Classic, Classic Summon or Dumb Summon, and Hass, they all leave the mirrors folded when they navigate. And so here we see this one has just landed off of the assembly line for the Cybertrucks, straight into the birthing tunnel. And you see why they call it that, right? Like literally, as soon as you put your feet on the ground, boom, you're going through this tunnel into life, and it's doing it by itself. A couple people have had a chance to ride in this, and they describe this as not overly narrow, but definitely not enough.
It looks narrow,
but not enough that you want to do it at full speed. Yeah,
you can see the Cybertruck in front of them. There's room on each side. It's okay.
Yeah, there's some room. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they're not scraping the hardened steel there.
Here, in the car, so it's even more weird that it still turns the wheel because it's steered by wire.
Right. Yeah. I did not notice that. I wonder why they're even turning the wheel.
They turn the wheel and open the mirrors. Turning the wheel, I don't see how that helps anybody to figure out what's going on.
Oh,
so see, it's something. And the lane is based on where it has to go. So this particular day that they recorded and that Joe was over there watching it, it's the Cybertrucks are all in this far left lane for whatever reason. They stop and wait here for a human. Human comes out from the left and then drives them into the lot. We can see that Cybertruck over there is either updating or has been driven by somebody, and they will be right back. I'm just going to have these kind of play in the background while we discuss what we saw.
Well, here's kind of interesting is that the three of us had thought initially with the boring tunnel in Las Vegas that might be the first place where FSD would show because of course there's less to contend with in a tunnel going in one direction. But here we've got it going through a tunnel. The Cybertruck is actually going through a boring tunnel the same way, and it's following the width of the tunnel and popping out the other side at a stop sign. It's waiting. It's getting an opening. It's pulling out into a line of traffic, and I'm really surprised. Why hasn't Las Vegas have seen some of this yet? Because obviously they've got a number of the problems licked to show us this video.
I would say there's probably a couple things going for it right now why that's the case. One, they're two separate companies, and two, one's production and the other is you've got Tesla AI is there ready to do some experimentation, whereas on boring for the loop they have certain requirements that they have to meet for passenger throughput, and if there's a chance that this could disrupt that, versus over at the factory they could gather up a bunch of people and have them move vehicles manually. Yeah.
A couple things that occurred to me. So I don't know about you guys, but the Teslas, when I've purchased them with FSD, initially it says that the cameras are not calibrated and you have to drive X number of miles before you can start using the FSD service. And that was even true in 2023 when I purchased our Model Y. So obviously they've changed that. Somehow the cameras are coming out calibrated, or there's some calibration stage during manufacturing that means they can do this.
Yes, they told us that the head of Tesla AI told us that as it's being constructed, it's calibrating itself. So uh, the computer goes in pretty early into the assembly, and it's tracking everything. So that makes it easier for them to do recalls. They can say, "Hey, these bolts were not
Right.
tightened to spec, or this process was missed," and it can store like these bolts had 8 Newton meters, those bolts had 300 Newton meters, or whatever they require, and it can just store all of that about itself as part of
Right.
its work.
Yeah, it'll know exactly what time each step was done if it's recording it as it's being, and they would know, which model of the computer that it has and other things, whatever features that has some recall. The other thing I wanted to point out is we were discussing why is it turning the wheel? Why does it have the mirrors out? So
Yeah.
today FSD is supervised.
Right.
And yes, this is unsupervised, but the way that they have it written is so that if you're a driver, you can actively take over, you can watch your mirrors so that
Right.
you can see what's happening. And so I think that it's still running in supervised mode, even when it is unsupervised. So I think that's why, that's why that we have the mirrors out and the steering wheel moving.
Yeah, because if we're in it, the only time the mirrors fold in is to squeeze through a tight space and only below a certain speed. So that makes sense. And this is going to be a lot. So the calibration that it does, my car has only been calibrated 3 times. Once when I picked it up, once when I got hardware 3, and then at the last point update, for some reason they corrupted all of my calibration data, so I had to nuke it. And it's 7 years, yeah. And that includes getting a new several cameras. I got a new rear camera a couple times, and I got a new driver's pillar camera and new cables a couple times. And what it does is it calibrates itself to its own dimensions once it gets that initial data set. And so it sounded like now that while they're telling it, hey, this is how you were built, they're also saying, hey, look over there, look over here, and here's your body, and then it calibrates itself as before it lands, and then it's off to the races from there, which is incredible.
Pretty smart. I forgot about the hardware 3 upgrade that we got in our Model 3. Yes, it had to go through calibration again after that.
Yeah, I would have avoided it because it was 30 minutes of driving to nowhere to get it fixed, but I also thought it was 30 minutes was better than 4 hours to drive it to a service center.
So we know that this unsupervised FSD is now active in Texas and Fremont in North America. And I believe we saw it operating in Shanghai. Am I mistaken, or have we seen some evidence of that?
We probably have, but I don't think they've called it out just yet.
Okay.
And we do know that right before Fremont started, all 4 factories that have finished vehicles come out of them, they all got fresh coats of paint between the factory and the loading lots. So
allowing FSD to follow new paint markings or know, the route based on clear side white paint showing you clearly where the road was. Makes sense.
Because they were, from what I understand, they were all the same routes, but they just made it boldly clear. This is where you're going.
Yeah.
So imagine if before this came about, somebody had to drive each one of these vehicles over to a lot, and then they had to have some kind of shuttle or something to get back. And all day driving the same 1.4 miles over and over, thousands of times a week, would have been a boring, repetitive job that has now been eliminated. And I hope that means that whoever was doing it got to do something more interesting.
They get to do 10 at a time now. So I used to drive a shuttle van for their rental company. That wasn't my only job, but it did. I mean, it was nice to get out, but it was if there weren't anybody there to talk to, like if it wasn't somebody on the outbound side or somebody on the inbound side, it's another run to the airport. Here we go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But this is, I guess this certainly is the beginning of unsupervised driving, and
Right.
they'll get some experience from this. Certainly, they're going to be able to judge how things are going, even though this is a pretty defined route, and it's only 1.44 miles in one, and even under a mile in another case. This is it's getting some real world examples here, and of course the other bonus is that this is on Tesla roads, and they release what they want based on their private roads. So they don't have to get too much regulatory approval because they're covering it based on their own property. So
Yeah.
it is something that is going to help them out. And we will have to see how this expands, because we're getting close now. We've talked about how Elon had always had a optimistic view of full self-driving and timelines, but we're now starting to see the progress. As previous, we had seen the other factories starting to get involved with this, and now, of course, they're producing videos that are showing the vehicle in different light conditions, different traffic conditions, different factory routes. So this is, again, positive news. We are heading towards that full self-driving future that was displayed to us a little while ago at the Cybercab event at Warner Brothers Studio. But here we are on real roads, not a back studio backlot. So this is great progress.
So the robotaxi is up in limited operation in Austin today. If you're a Tesla employee,
yeah,
right. So I haven't heard any data from that yet. It'll be interesting if that ever comes out. And they show some videos of that, someone getting picked up at a coffee shop or something. Obviously, you wouldn't want to dock somebody and have their home address, but and then driven to work.
Yeah,
that would be a cool one to see. Driving through normal traffic in Austin.
I don't think that the cybercabs are on the normal roads yet in Austin. I think the ride service is probably regulated to Giga Texas, going around different parts of the plant. That'd be my guess, because of course we would have seen video evidence of the cybercab on the streets of Austin by now.
It could just be a Model Y or a Model 3, though.
True.
It wouldn't stand out if it was just some employee getting picked up and taken to work, unless you happen to notice there was nobody behind the wheel. Or maybe they're
required to get behind the wheel. But
yeah.
but even then, it would come to them with an empty driver's seat. So and again, there's so many people watching this company and paying attention to where the cars are coming and going. If someone was like Joe, for example, if he was able to film and even inadvertently that a empty Model Y was leaving the factory, I just got to believe that more and more people would know about it real quickly.
The drone army would have footage.
Yeah, I think so.
But if it's going to launch in June, this is April.
It is.
If they're going to do an employee test run first, that's got to be starting soon.
Yep.
So we should.
Well, like I said, maybe the employee test run is between different points at the factory. They're just driving around the outer loop and picking up and dropping off people.
Right. But even if it can drive around that campus incredibly well, that won't help them in June when they need to navigate city streets.
Yeah.
So they need to start testing that really soon.
That's what we're doing for them every day. Billions of miles a month.
True.
But still, we're not seeing the actual like there's a shadow, running, and then there's the real thing. And Patrick's saying we need to be at the real thing by June, so we should be seeing this shortly.
Unless they do have supervisors sitting behind the wheel, even when it goes to pick somebody up, right? So that they could be testing it that way, which is how a lot of the self-driving stuff that has rolled out, they had safety drivers in there ready to take over.
True.
Yeah, their California permit was basically for a app-based limo, and so you still have the human there, at least at first, because when you look at all the disclaimers and then the FAQ that they had for the California application, it doesn't mean they're not going to do it differently in Texas, but that's what we were able to see. Uh, it's going to be interesting to watch because
Mm-hmm.
Green the Only saw code that said that shadow mode. He doesn't believe shadow mode is a real thing, but the what he agrees with us would be able to be described as a shadow mode. The stuff that it's looking for has ramped way up in the last couple of weeks. Like the car's like looking for, hey, so find me a car with a broken taillight or anything you see that's weird. Tell me about it, and we'll discuss it. And then it's sending all that back to the mothership so it can get crunched on by
Right.
Colossus. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole fleet search is a great way for them to get the anomalous kind of data. Because if you don't have that in your training set, you're not going to be able to handle like a truck being towed where you see the front of the vehicle and it looks like it's pointed right at you. Well, normally you would think that means it's headed at you, but not if it's being towed backwards. That means something else. Or if
And
you
what-
don't recognize a bike rack on the back of a car or whatever.
Exactly.
So all these things, the fact that they have this fleet of vehicles out there, they can say that when they notice a gap in their training data, they can say, hey, look for this, send back 10 seconds of footage, 20 seconds, whatever the number they need. That can all go into Dojo or whatever for their AI training. And now they have a more robust training set.
Exactly.
Yeah, like what if that truck being towed backwards also has the driver's bicycle on the end of the towed truck? That's a new look for a lot of these systems. And then we saw NVIDIA was bragging about how they have a similar system for the competitors. And then when asked about it, they said, what does Tesla need from all this? And they said, well, they're collecting their own data. We can still simulate what they collected, and they're just now training on more robust data than a competitor would be because they've seen more and collected more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's time to turn it to the audience. Where do you think the first FSD unsupervised driving will be happening outside of the factory? What do you think is happening in Austin? Are these vehicles being are they having safety drivers in front of them and they're actually driving on FSD unsupervised, but they just have someone behind the wheel to comply with the law? What do you think is happening out there? Put it in the comments below. We'd like to hear from you. And let's move on to shout outs. Casey, what do you got for us?
Catch us in 2 days live for the Tesla Live show, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Very good. Patrick?
I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, where I write about my future free from fossil fuels.
Got it all in. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight, and we'll get together next time and discuss what's happening in the Tesla life.
Oh, it doesn't want to play? Okay. Oh, it really doesn't want to play. Have a good one, everyone.